what I am today. I hope you're satisfied. Now that was running through my mind all the time I was getting this cruddy stuff ready for you guys to listen to. But the main thing that happened in 1933 was I was born.
That was a good year. I was born
October
that year
21st
too.
was a really good day. Anyway, we lived in a little town of Raymond, Minnesota, about 300 people. My grandfather owned a store, and he also owned the mill, the grain mill. And we used to go out there summers and play around out there, and I also helped him in the feed mill. My mom and dad, they had an older sister, 3-year older sister, and we stayed in Raymond for a couple of years, and then we moved to Colorado, where my father was from, for 2 years, and then we ended up moving for his work, we moved to California for a couple of years. And we finally got back to Minneapolis. We were grounded in Minneapolis, and we ended up living over in the Phillips neighborhood. Everybody know what the Phillips neighborhood is?
Mm-hmm. Well,
It's a pretty bad neighborhood.
South High School.
And I got to go to the Wendell Phillips Junior High School, and they had a choral group there, and I joined that. I also did a little bit of junior Golden Gloves boxing there. But I ended up getting into an awful lot of trouble, and a lot of real bad trouble. So my father and my mother realized that. They moved me out to the southern outlet outside of Minneapolis, Richfield, and bought a home out there. And I went to Washburn High School. And Washburn High School, Richfield did not have a high school, so we had to be bused into Washburn. And we were the ne'er-do-wells out there then. And I graduated from Washburn in '52, and in '54, I was out in Minneapolis, from Minneapolis going out in Raymond, Minnesota, and I met my lovely wife. And she was the best thing that ever happened to me as far as barbershop too, because she really supported barbershop. And when we got to Richfield, we had a piano in our living room, and my mom and my two sisters all played the pianos, and we all sang. We were a really musical family. And then I met Lynn Ingersoll. I don't know if you all know Lynn Ingersoll, but wonderful man. Met Lynn Ingersoll, and we got to be very good friends. And one day he called me up and he says, "Hey, they're having an open house over here in Bloomington, and they've got want people to sign up for singing." And I said, "Well, let's go over and try it." So we went over, and we went to the Bloomington chapter that night. And this chapter started in 1957. It was sponsored by the Minneapolis chapter. Bruce Churchill was one of our main people that organized everything. You know, I believe that barbershop singing is an art form that's supposed to be shared by others. And boy, we went to that meeting, and I'm telling you, they shared and shared and shared. We sang all night with new tags, with guys like Richard Dick, Tom Cherholm, GTC, and so forth, and we were hooked. Well, even though I couldn't find dough in a barbershop, I mean in a bakery shop, I started a quartet with Dick Henniger and Len Ingersoll, myself, and Don Paul. And later on, Lenny was singing bass. I was singing tenor, and we went into Jack Beaver. We changed our name. The name of that one was the Half Notes, because we were always a half note low when we got done with the song. It's a pretty good name. Jack Beaver changes. He become our Barry. Then we went on, and Jim brought a friend over from his old stomping grounds, and I don't even know what his name was. Jim didn't remember it either, but he was our new baritone. Then we changed our name to the Random Sample. Then I become lead, and then Len changed to tenor. Warren Wild was our Barry, and Dan Dahl was our tenor. Alan Gray was the Barry, and then Mellon come in, and he was tenor. Then we got Doug Lofdahl as a baritone, and then Daryl Eggertson as the Barry. We also had a little gritty dirt band that we used to have. You guys don't remember that, but I suppose it wasn't really a pronounced thing, but Alan Gray played the banjo, Len played the washboards, Teddy played the bass, and I played the spoons. We had a lot of fun with that thing. It was really fun. We also had another quartet that we used to go around with, and that was with Jim Angel, Dick Johnson, Joe Kleshold, and myself, called the Accidentals. And I don't know, we had one heck of a lot of good times doing that. And I always want to remember that, you know, Barbershop is not just about the singing. I was never really enthused about competing in either the quartet or the chorus. But it's about friends and barbershop, all the camaraderie. Fishing trips, camping trips, taking shows to Red Wing, cruising all over the world, all over the United States with barbershops and friends. 57 years in the chorus I spent. Done all jobs within the chorus, president a few times. The most thing I'm proud of is I brought in 32 members into the society.
Wow.
And the main job, as far as I was concerned, was to keep the chapter growing. We got up to 75. That was the most we ever had in our chorus. And one of the things that they allotted me to do, and decided that I was supposed to do it anyway, I guess, is to get the directors. Now, you guys listen to these names. I'm sure you'll know some of them. Tom Chernholm started the chapter. Richard Dick was the next one. Les Durgan, Kermit Hansen, Jerry Stensvold, Gil Stammer, Nate Richardson, Roy Johnson, Barbara Wack, Carol Stenstrom, who just passed away, myself in 202 and 203, and I had to quit. I just did not have the hands that Spong has. I just had to give it up. And Doug Larson, Al Machinsky, Jim Hall, Patricia Rigg. Some of the most memorial gigs.
Harold over.
Huh?
You forgot Harold.
Oh, Allring, yeah, Allring. Forgot him. Wayne, he was not here. Harold Allring, yes. And the most memorial gigs that we've had, of course, you all know that you sung with somebody that you figured when you got done it was singing to a painting. Well, we had some really good gigs in our time. Quite a few of them. One was the IDS Party, MOA openings, Canterbury Park openings, Valentine's Day comedy quartets. One of the most memorable was the USS Bonhomme reunion. That was a reunion of this, one of the largest aircraft carriers in the Pacific during the Second World War. And they had a reunion here in Bloomington, and they hired us to sing. And we sang for that. It was probably one of the most emotional ones I ever been at. I guess our chapter folded in 2013, and that was probably the worst day of my life. But because of you guys, I come down here and sing. Thank you.